नमस्कार शार्क, मैं गणेश बालकृष्णन बैंगलोर से हूँ।
गणेश, वेलकम टू शार्क टैंक।
थैंक यू।
देखो, इन्वेस्टर्स भी कोई बेवकूफ तो है नहीं। बेसिक्स मिसिंग थे आपके में। आपको क्या लगता है कि कहाँ गड़बड़ हो रही है?
कंपनी चला ही नहीं सकता, कोई जूते पहन ही नहीं रहा है।
3-4 महीने में मेरे पैसे भी खत्म हो जाएंगे और बिजनेस भी शट डाउन हो जाएगा।
I really think I will go out there.
पीयूष, अमन said a very nice thing. नहीं चल रहा है ना, बंद करके
बंद करो।
And understand how to do this. I need a couple of years to do this. Sorry, that's what I'm thinking.
To say it in live television in front of the whole country, saying that takes guts, man. And entrepreneur जो होता है ना, उसकी यही पहचान होती है, वो गिर के खड़ा होता है. You are down but not out, my friend.
yeah.
Yes, I'm definitely going to go back and do something.
What is AURM?
So, AURM is an asset protection firm.
Do you think builders will use this as a USP to sell their units?
Absolutely. We already.
Hi Ganesh, how have you been?
Hi Musavvir, great to meet you. I've
Same
been
here.
Great.
Thanks.
And, thanks for inviting me over to this podcast. So, looking forward to a great conversation.
I mean, more than that, our audience would be very happy to get first-hand information, from you on your new startup. We're going to speak more about that.
Can't wait to talk more about it.
Correct. So we'll have 2-3 sections. Typically we'll speak about startups because I think that's an trending concept for quite some time now, and people want to. We see a lot of youngsters starting their company, with a big vision. I think they do a lot of mistakes. What I have realized, 9 out of 10 companies are failing these days for various reasons. So let's start about speaking on this. Have you ever had to pivot your business, and how did you handle it?
Yes, as an entrepreneur running an early stage startup in the early days, right? Before there is product market fit, there are multiple experiments that you run to understand where the market is. So what you envision as the product from day zero does not really translate to what the customers want, right? So there are a lot of experimental pivots that you do.
Okay.
I'm not really counting that. So let's talk about post product market fit,
Okay.
right? So when you found that there is some traction and there is growth ahead for your startup, and then you move, and then post that you hit a point where there is business questions around the entire business proposition itself. And then what do you do, right? So that is the pivot that I'll talk about.
Okay.
One example is we used to run a mobile payments app called Momoe, right, in 2013. Yes. It was early days on the app ecosystem. We were doing payments in retail stores, restaurants, toll roads, and so on. So it was real world physical mobile payments in the real world, right? Otherwise, most of the other mobile payments were, recharges and utility bill payments.
Absolutely.
So it was almost like a pioneering kind of thing at that time. Once we got to, so we had great traction in the early stages, right? In Bangalore, we had more than 3,000 restaurants and more than almost 1,000 retail stores accepting Momo. We were powering the only toll road here, which was the nice toll road for daily commutes, and that was running really well. But then the question was, hey, where do we go from here? Right? Do we need to move city by city, like an Uber model? You set up a city team, you go and acquire all merchants and then start enabling payments, or is there another way to do this, right? Because at that time, a couple of big players had entered into the payment ecosystem, right? And they were all looking at offline as the next mode of growth. Paytm was one. Payment bank licenses has been issued, yes. So all the telecom players, including Airtel and Vodafone, had come into
Everyone
mobile
stepped
payments,
into it.
right? Jio was another one that came in. So we were really thinking about, hey, what do we do from here, right? What is the scale version of Momo look like, and what do we do there, right?
Okay.
Fundamentally, the model that got us to that point, which was, on the ground sales force, going and acquiring merchants, almost like an FMCG beat, right? So you walk through a pin code, sign up everybody, and then hyperlocal marketing to get customers to adopt the product. Worked really well in Bangalore. But then, if you have to scale this model, effectively what is limiting for us is the fact that you have to move city by city and pin code by pin code, right? And that's a much slower scale-up model. If you really look at Paytm, from day one they were pan-India, right? Because they started with digital payments on the app. Then they started looking at offline. So they were already present across the country. So we really wanted to solve the scale problem, and that was a big pivot for us, right? So then what we did was we said, hey, either we need an anchor on the merchant side where we could acquire merchants pan-India very quickly, or we needed an anchor on the customer side where you could have customers pan-India and then you could build the other side of the network, right? So it's a network business. So we started talking to banks who had customers, who had merchants. We spoke to e-commerce companies. We spoke to acquirers of merchants in the POS industry, right? Billing industry. So a lot of those explorations is what we had done. One of those explorations actually turned into an acquisition conversation, right? With e-commerce companies, because if you look at e-commerce, you have a whole bunch of merchants on one side, and then you have a whole bunch of customers on the other side. It's a platform that it's a marketplace, right?
Yes.
So you could work on both sides. You could do merchants as well, and you could do customers as well.
Yes.
One of the e-commerce marketplaces called ShopClose at that time, who had just become a unicorn,
Right.
was basically, they were looking for a payment stack to be integrated into the business. The other problem with mobile payments is also that the entire business is a 2% margin business, right? Effectively, you are working on the MDR,
obviously,
right? And with that, the cost of acquisition is very high. So effectively, it becomes a bleed business. So you needed an anchor who could support that 2% MDR business model. E-commerce works very well because there is margin on the actual product sales side.
Good margins.
Correct. So that's when we decided, hey, let us align with one of the e-commerce partners and then see, serve their merchants in terms of the merchants both had online and offline presence. Most of the merchants on Shopify, they were micro sellers, right? They had stores. So you could power payments at the store, which was our strength, and you could digitize their catalog to go online using the Momo merchant side, right? Plus, not only that, the customer gets business on the platform, and we could do hyperlocal marketing for customers in their area, right? And that could be a customer side. So that was the big pivot that we did by getting acquired by ShopClose, right?
Superb.
Yeah.
Very nice. What's one key lesson from a failure of your experience?
I think here I'll bring up Flatheads, the footwear brand that we had. We launched Flatheads in November 2019, which was just 3-4 months before the pandemic. And by the time we had got basic building blocks of the commerce stack of the brand set up, and we had started selling, we hit the pandemic. Our core proposition was great casual shoes, comfortable shoes for the urban workforce.
Yes.
People stopped going to work, and the business suddenly just went to zero.
Yes.
Most of our communications were about casual footwear at work. Use case of work went away. People started working remotely. People were sitting at home. There was no need for shoes. As such,
I mean, they were not stepping out.
Absolutely.
So why would they need?
Right. Then it became a survival issue for us. Right. And then over the next 1.5 to 2 years, we just went through multiple cycles as the pandemic waves happened. Multiple cycles of trying to figure out what the business could be. Starting from selling masks and protective PPE gear, right? Because our suppliers were knit.
So they were doing
fabric.
that. I mean, similarly, that's how everyone did a shift, from their core business.
Yeah, you had to do something to survive. Right? So survival was the one thing. Then we said, hey, we cannot control the demand. Why don't we look at supply?
Correct.
So we localized everything. Our first set of shoes came from China. During the pandemic, we actually worked here with suppliers in India to localize the entire supply chain, create shoes with natural fibers, which was an innovation, first of its kind in India.
Yes.
Launching those here, a whole bunch of things that we tried to do on the supply side, and then trying to see whether demand will come or not. But it was a very what do you say, up and down curve, right? It was a roller coaster, if you will. At the end of which, after the second wave, when we had one last push to go, right? So we actually signed up. One of our investors was a celebrity, Gaurav Kapoor, right? Who used to run Breakfast with Champions. I think he still does.
Yes.
So he came on board. He believed in the proposition. We created the next set of shoes. Great innovations in terms of linen and banana fabric. Launched that to the market. And then unfortunately, when we were just starting to scale, we just ran out of capital, right? So it was a bittersweet kind of a experience, if you will. Understanding and growing a real life product and creating innovation, first of its kind in the market. But then, the market reality was people were not buying shoes in those 2.5 years. It was just a bad time to launch a footwear business, right?
I mean, most of the people, whoever launched from 2019 in the pandemic, had a similar kind of a thing. I think at least not the conventional guys, but who started fresh, I feel faced this kind of a problem.
Well, there were other businesses that did phenomenally well as well, right?
Yes.
Anything that was in the digital space, EdTech
Yeah.
was a classic example.
Correct.
Phenomenally well.
I think influencers had a very big impact as well. I mean, there was no terminology called influencing in India, and from pandemic that started well. A lot of people capped that, and I think today it has moved to a next level.
Absolutely. So there are some businesses that did very well, but ours was a business that could not do well, right? So, and hence there was at the end of it where we had to make a decision, which was in the mid 2022 kind of a time frame, is when we decided, yeah, okay, let us take the fail and let's move on and let's do something else, right? So that was something
which looks challenging, but I feel someone has to take a step forward. Otherwise, you can't sit back and still crying about how do we manage, what do we do, and things like that. One valid point, I think most of the people have watched this on Shark Tank India. In case you would have accepted the funding at Shark Tank, how things would have been different for Flatheads?
So I think the deal that we got from Vinita and Piyush was effectively restarting the company and recapitalizing the cap table, right? So and what they were offering was less than 1 crore for effectively 30% stake in the company.
Correct.
The issue with that, given our experience with creating a D2C brand of footwear at least, is that you need a lot more patient capital and you probably need a lot more money in order to create that brand, right? Because shoes is an insurance product. You buy once a year.
Yes,
right?
you don't buy it whenever you want.
Correct. And because of the repeat rates are so far away, you need at least 3 to 4 years of being in the market before people consistently come back, repeat, and then say, hey, this is a brand worth sticking to, right? And that becomes an issue. So from a what if perspective, if we had taken that money and we had restarted the company as well, I think very quickly we would have had to go back to the market and say, hey, we need to raise another round.
Correct.
But then there were a lot of question marks around.
Otherwise, sustainability would have been again a similar.
Absolutely, right? Given that we had, as a brand marketer, it was a dream to get that visibility of the brand and awareness of the brand out there. But still, the fundamental building blocks of the business in terms of distribution, in terms of the offline versus online game, there are a whole bunch of things that were still not figured out, right? So, looking back, I think it would have still been an uphill battle to get Flatheads to a point. Our idea was, either figure out a more sustainable way to get there, or find, just like we did for Momo, find a anchor business in which Flatheads can potentially pick up and become a part of a larger portfolio.
Correct.
Right? And that's when we started scouting at acquisition options. Right? So I would say things might not have been very different as such, because we would have still had to go through the 0 to 1 journey all over again. Looking back, I think it was a good decision for us to take that call that, hey, let us become part of an apparel brand. So eventually it got acquired by Stitch. Right? So we would have postponed that decision by another year and a half probably. But yeah, I think it was a good call nevertheless.
Amazing. Great. So, the Shark Tank exposure, has it impacted life beyond business?
Absolutely, it has. The reason why we are sitting here is because you know me, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I know you purely because of the Shark Tank, thing.
I think the fact that the real story of entrepreneurship came out in that conversation at Shark Tank, it's not all about what you read in the paper, the hype about unicorn funding, and on the downside, edtechs crashing,
Correct.
and founders becoming villains. That's not what entrepreneurship is at all, right? You've been there. You understand this.
I have also seen the cycle up and down. It's not at all easy.
Absolutely, right? You have to have resilience, you have to have perseverance, you have to take the failures, you have to take the wins with the same, Captain Cool kind of a mindset. I'll invoke Dhoni here, if you will.
I know.
That has to be part of the entrepreneurial story, and that is what entrepreneurship is about in India. As you said, 9 out of 10 entrepreneurship ventures fail. So you are starting out with a statistical probability of 10%, right? We are crazy to begin with, right?
Correct.
But then people need to understand that, on one side it is not very rosy, on the other side also, even though there are a lot of failures, it can be something that can become a very fulfilling journey as such, right? So for me, what I gain joy from is the entrepreneurship journey. And that's what keeps me an entrepreneur. Even after that, I came back to become an entrepreneur again. I'm launched again, right? So that became visible, and a lot of people reached out to me. People who are on the fence, who are working, who are thinking whether I should take a plunge. They saw this and they reached out and said, how can I become an entrepreneur? What are the mindsets that I need to fulfill? People who are stuck in their businesses, like we were in Flatheads and we took that call. A lot of them reached out and said, hey, I'm in that position right now, which you are. I would really like to figure out, what is the best outcome that I can do with my company now, and then see where I can go from there. Right? So the whole sunk cost conversations, a lot of them happened. So I got connected to a lot of entrepreneurs and wannabe entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. And that was very heartening to see. India is buzzing, man.
I know.
I think we have a great 2 to 3 decades ahead of people taking the plunge, taking the risk, and building businesses. At the end of the day, the economy will be built by entrepreneurs, right? We are the ones who change things for the better, right? So we have a very bright future ahead, and I saw that firsthand, right? That was one big impact. Second thing is, I think from a family perspective as well, there was I come from a very conservative family, right? We are people who have been in jobs all the way. I have been in jobs for 15 years before I became an entrepreneur. So I think there was a lot of validation as well that, hey, you know what, this is not a lonely journey, right? There are a lot of people around you who also are been in the same boat. And that's something that every entrepreneur goes through, the survival issue that you have to hit rock bottom once. Then you
That's
know.
when you realize, and that experience matters a lot.
Absolutely, right? So we realized that we are not alone in this, right? So we got connected with a lot of families as well, right? So it has been a great experience from that perspective. Of course, the whole influencer thing is the other thing that came up, right? A lot of requests for participating in whether it be podcasts, whether it be events, conferences, going and delivering lectures, also doing some consulting work, right? So there are a whole bunch of things that came up, and been trying to do as much as possible given the time constraints and stuff like that. It has been an interesting journey. I have never wanted to be an influencer, right? So that came as a surprise as such, but been trying to live that life as well.
Great.
So,
I always look up to a guy in real estate called as Anuj Puri. He had once said this, saying that when industry is not performing good, when things are not working good, every day in the morning getting up, getting ready, clean shave, wearing nice clothes, going in front of people with a broad smile and saying nothing is wrong, everything will be fine. A big saying, a very practical man. But I always recollect that, that motivates me in terms of whenever I'm down, when things are not moving the way, man, this is how. The way we present ourselves, the way we put it across to people is very important.
Absolutely. And as an entrepreneur, even your morale of the entire company depends on you.
Yes.
They are looking up to you.
I mean, people are looking up to us, and when we are down, I don't think so they can put their 100% on that.
Absolutely. Right? So you need to project that confidence and that. I remember in the early days of Momo as well and Shopkins, we used to have this saying that said, get up, show up and get it done. Right? No matter what. This is exactly what you talked about.
I know.
Right? So you need to show up and you need to get it done. That is the grind. It is 99.9% that, right? Every day.
These days, after the Shark Tank fame, down but not out has become an amazing phrase, for anyone who are at the similar situation. If you're down but still consider yourself to not be out of it and, put in that effort. I think we spoke about startups. I am sure the audience would have got a good insight about Ganesh, giving that, smaller tips to people or his journey and things like that. Now getting back on, I'm very curious to know this. What is AURM?
So, AURM is an asset protection firm. What we do is we provide safe deposit lockers. Better than bank lockers.
Safe deposit lockers, guys.
So we provide safe deposit lockers for storing your gold, important documents, and anything that is your prized possession, right? At the convenience of your own community. So we partner with banks, we partner with real estate providers to install strong rooms with complete surveillance and security, where you can store your stuff. Not only store, you can access it very, very conveniently. So it is 24/7. You can go and access it anytime during the day, during the year. And it is almost like a dressing room kind of experience, right? When you're accessing your wealth, it should be a joyous experience, right? You should have fun with it.
The feeling should be good.
Absolutely, right? Like
today it's like, I'm not able to get a bank locker, because banks have very limited space on doing that. I think people should not get today a simple reason. For example, you keep most of your valuables, typically the gold, in lockers. If there is a big event, there's a marriage in family, one day before you will have to plan whether it's a weekly off or a bank holiday. There are so many things which gets into your mind, and security, from bank to home, carrying that, and various other reasons.
Absolutely.
So I feel it's something very exciting for the audience to know on this. But yeah, we'll dig deeper into it. What was the idea behind AURM?
So AURM is actually started by armed forces veterans who are my 8 core members.
Okay.
Right. So the thought process was MyGate. When
it's a brand these days.
It was all, we understand residential community, we understand security, and the DNA is there with the armed forces veterans, right? So we were thinking, when I was brainstorming with them, we were thinking, what can we do to add value to residents in apartment communities, right? And one of the things that came up was, hey, where do we store our value, right? Banks are not, the lockers are not available.
Not available at all. How many? Looking at the population, banks have to multiply God knows how many times to cater to everyone.
Right? You look at a small gated community like an apartment complex, there are 1,000 homes. Now, any complex comes with a minimum of 1,000 homes.
Yes.
What do you do there? 1,000 homes means you need, every bank locker typically will not have more than 200 lockers. So which means you need, 50 branches to service that demand. Yes. And there is no way you'll put 50 branches in that area, right? So there is a genuine need for a product like this. And we said, hey, okay, so we take what bank lockers offer, which is the good stuff of storing high value items, but then you improve on the things that are not that great, right? We are still stuck, bank lockers are still stuck in very legacy storage methods, right? In terms of security. Yes, the strong room is there. It's got reinforced steel and concrete. But beyond that, in terms of surveillance, it's just a camera with a DVR. In case a theft happens, you can have post-mortem of analysis of what happened, right? And it's very people dependent. So entire operation of lockers, you need a person there, which is why you are restricted by bank timings. There is an armed guard, but he's not there during working hours and non-working hours, right? So that becomes a big security issue. And most of the thefts that happen are because of employee collusion with the robbers, right? So there is a weak link, which is the employee. So can we improve on that, right? So what we said was, hey, we will use technology to improve it, right? Why don't we put not only secure infrastructure in terms of strong room, but on top of that, put the right sensors, put the right equipment in order to actively surveil and make sure that there is response in case there is any alarm or any attempt at theft, right? So that technology aspect we brought in, right? We have a very simple comparison around that. We say, you know, if the bank is the Hulk, right? They've got these strong rooms, but the technology is not there. We are Iron Man. We bring the technology, but we also have the security around it, right? So we built a combination of that to bring that to the customers.
How will you educate people about AURM's benefit over bank lockers?
Yeah, so there are 2 or 3 things. One, it's almost like an ATM service. It's 24/7, 365. It's right next to your home. It's typically in residential communities. With real estate builders, actually, with new communities, we are offering it as an amenity. Just like
this is what I wanted to ask. You know, larger communities today, they have a clubhouse, they have all the other features. So if they can make a strong room, which is backed by your concept, you know, technology with a strong room, I think will add a lot of value.
Absolutely, right. So it becomes just like you buy a car park, you also buy a locker along with that, right on the day one, right? So that is one thing that we are doing. Second, all of our lockers are insured for up to 25 lakhs.
Very interesting, guys. Please keep a watch on this. The lockers are insured.
The aspect of insurance is important because ultimately it's your wealth, right? And if you look at banks, actually until last year, there was absolutely no liability from the bank side, right? So in case something gets stolen, banks have absolutely no liability. They are not responsible to, compensate you. Last year, RBI introduced rules that said they are liable for at least 100 times the annual rent.
Yes.
Provided it is proven that it is bank's negligence. And that takes a lot of years in court as well, right?
I mean, it's next to impossible, you know.
Absolutely.
To that.
Right?
But what I see is, do you think builders will use this as a USP to sell their units?
Absolutely. We already see a lot of interest from the builders. In fact, a lot of real estate promoters are our investors as well.
Oh,
right?
very
so
nice.
now, you know, we have a set of communities that is coming up in the next year and a half, where we can actually introduce this from day one.
Okay.
So yes, there is genuine interest from the real estate side as well.
Amazing. Okay.
So that is one. Coming back to what are the propositions for the customers. So 24/7 access right next to you. You don't need to wait for bank timings. Second, completely insured lockers. Third, in terms of the experience, right? When you walk into a bank locker, it is like an industrial setup. There are steel grey cabinets everywhere. There is a jail door that closes behind you. It just feels like you're inside a jail. You're here to steal your wealth. It's not like to access your wealth, right? So most of the times your mindset is, let me go in. There is a little cubby hole that I have to get my stuff from. It is either too high or too low.
It's difficult. I have faced similar problems myself. You know, going there, you know, trying to put a hand and go reach the top bottom if I have left something and pull it back.
And if something falls, you have no idea what's going on, right? Lighting is not enough.
Yes.
So why do we have to go through that? It's your own wealth. It has to be a joyous experience, right? So what we did was we created like a lounge kind of a environment where people can go and access. And it's because it's automated, the locker actually comes to you. You don't walk into that locker. So you sit there, there's a chair, mirrors, table, get the locker in, take your time. The use case is almost, you know, there is a wedding reception at 8:30 in the night. You come dressed up, take your valuable jewelry.
And you straight away head to the...
Go straight to the party, come back at 1 a.m., deposit it and then go to sleep, right? So that is the use case that we're trying to do.
Ganesh, are you trying to create a community bank by entering into this field?
Actually, no, we are not in the banking space at all.
I'm just curious to know on this.
Banks have a whole bunch of other things that they are really great at, right? Whether it is lending, whether it is actually the banking services, the transactions, financial side. We are not in that space, right? We are in the space of asset protection, and that's where we will be. Okay. And we will innovate around this aspect in order to see what we can do with your asset, right? Maybe we can unlock it to give you a better I don't know, secured credit going forward, right? A whole bunch of things that we can do around your core physical asset itself, right? So those are the areas that we will innovate on going forward. But for now, it is about safeguarding your asset. By the way, this is the only banking product that is not under a license, right? So you don't need. There are more than 650 private locker facilities available in India.
Are they? Okay,
Yeah.
I was not aware of that.
So there are people like Navketan Lockers in north of
Okay.
India. There is City Finance in the south who've been operating for more than 20 years now.
Okay.
Right. All the gold loan players also offer locker facilities to you. Muthoot
Yeah,
and
they do.
Manappuram.
They do.
Right?
Yes.
So all those are available for a long time. So we are not new in the locker space, but what we are offering is the convenience which the other people are not able to offer. Right?
You will have to go to them. Here, it is coming to them. You know, that's the difference.
Absolutely.
What I see. Brilliant. So, how did you identify AURM?
So because MyGate folks are there.
Did you
they are friends
know,
of mine.
Did you knew them?
Oh yeah.
prior to this?
So one of the founders of MyGate is a very good friend of mine from school. He was my classmate. Actually.
Oh, that's nice.
Right. So I've been involved, and I know of MyGate from day one when they ideated it to what it is now, which is a phenomenal company
Phenomenal
with
journey.
leading market share in
Yes,
this space.
yes.
They have defined a category which did not exist. Right. So I understand their ethos. I've been in close quarters looking at how it has been built. Huge respect for these guys, right? So when I was sitting with the team and we were brainstorming, so I was going there more from a perspective of understanding what we can do from a consumer side, right? Because I'm a consumer marketer,
Yes.
right? So we were just brainstorming on what else can we do for consumers inside, right? Who are inside residential communities. Residential communities as such is becoming more and more self-sufficient, right? Now big apartment complexes have clinics, they have supermarkets,
Everything.
they have salons,
Malls.
schools, malls,
They have malls,
everything is there.
everything, and metro is just hop away for them.
Exactly, right?
So with this kind of facility, I'm sure people don't have to feel, because today for a person living in south going to north, we would be wasting too much of time. And if
Absolutely.
you get everything at your society, why would you go out?
Absolutely, right? So from that
Until unless
perspective,
there is a need for it.
we were thinking what are the kind of products and services that we can offer to customers inside, and that's when the concept of AURM came up, right? And it fit right into our ethos because there is the armed forces background. There is our head of security and operations is ex Air Force. He actually used to handle security and operations for delivery for all their warehouses pan India,
Okay.
right? So now that ethos is built in from day one in our company as well. So we understand security, we understand residential communities. How can we take that to build something more, value adding to the customers? And it seemed like this was a space that was waiting to be disrupted. Right? There was something that we can do to improve upon significantly and create a new category as such. Right? So that was the thought.
Where do you see AURM in next 5 years?
I think we would have defined the category of convenient access of your personal belongings and safe storage as market leaders in the Indian ecosystem for sure. In 5 years, we have a runway, visible runway of the number of societies that we can sign up for the next 2 years already. Right?
Okay.
We've got inbounds, we've got real estate promoters as partners, we are talking to banks for partnerships, right? So a whole bunch of those things happen. In 5 years, I see AURM as the go-to partner for banks and real estate players to offer locker services to their customers. Just like banks have outsourced their entire ATM infrastructure, right? We will be the partner of choice for any bank who wants to offer a locker to a customer. We will set up the infrastructure, we will manage the infrastructure, and we will build the entire service aspect of things for the locker access. That's the way we see
Great.
AURM.
When is the official launch?
So we've done a soft launch with 4 societies already in Bangalore. I think we are, getting ready with our playbook of, how to install, how to operate, how to get customers to come and subscribe. So all that playbook should be ready by the next month and a half or so. So after that, you will see a big, launch happening. So potentially, I'm looking at June time frame, end of June, to do a proper launch.
Great. Anyhow, we would be very happy to see the launch and people sharing their feedback on this and customer satisfaction kind of thing. That's what on a long run we would want to. Guys, kindly watch out for AURM. It's coming near you very soon. I think
if you want AURM in your society, please reach out to us. AURM.
Don't miss out on that. You can reach out to. We are going to put a email caption below in most of the socials wherever we put this for you to reach out to AURM, and then you can take things forward from there.
So Musavvir, we are entrepreneurs, right? Always selling. Sorry.
No, we will have to. We will have to. I mean, that's the whole idea, Anyway, thanks on giving us an insight. I think I am very clear about what AURM and I would like to congratulate and I would be very happy to see AURM grow, and reach whatever your goals are on that. Before we end, we will have a last section. Though I know, a little different, but ReTalk has always been about real estate. So we wanted to just, ask few of those things to you. Do you invest in real estate?
Well, I have my own house.
I think that's a big investment.
Yeah.
But given an opportunity today, whether you would invest in residential, commercial, other than your startup, I'm sure you're putting a lot of money there, whether it would be residential or commercial.
I think residential, primarily I look at it from a, I need to live there kind of a perspective. I have not looked at real estate from a, investor perspective for residential purposes, because, there is some tax saving involved and stuff, but the revenue that you get from there is not really, proportionate is what I would say. There are much more other asset classes that I can invest in.
So anyhow, after this conversation, we are going to change this perception.
Oh, absolutely. Would love to hear. But commercial, I think there is definitely scope is what I feel.
Yes.
Because there is a little more predictability around rentals and you can get a regular income at least.
Yes.
That is something that I would definitely look at. I have not explored this space, to be honest, Musavvir. Would love to hear about.
Sure. We will discuss offline about it and give you more insights on that.
The aspect that I see, like for example, in Bangalore itself, if you look at the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the way it has grown, whether it be all the tech parks, whether it be where we are right now in HSR, every third house has been converted into a commercial space. There is a lot of scope from a real estate perspective. You see so many of these co-working spaces coming up, various business models also that are being explored, including fractional ownership that you guys keep talking about.
Correct.
I think there is enough and more to be explored as an asset class from a real estate perspective. I haven't done that personally, but yes, absolutely curious to know more.
So how do you see technology changing real estate?
I think it is a no-brainer to get more and more technology into your space, whether it is living, whether it is working, right? Starting from simple things like automated door locks and boom barriers for security when you enter into the society. It increases the security aspect. It increases the lifestyle quotient. It makes things more convenient. Right, so all these things, whether you talk about the Zomatos and the Zeptos of the world, whether you talk about MyGate itself and what we are doing as AURM, all these are technological innovations that make your life better. You don't have to worry about the small things. All those are taken care of for you, right? I think it's a no-brainer that will happen. It is always affordability that becomes the question. The minute it becomes affordable in your space is when adoption will take off. And all real estate builders are looking for innovations to differentiate themselves in the market, right? So as soon as there is a technological innovation out there that they can take it, like smart locks is a classic example, right? As soon as it came into the market, a lot of builders have started adopting it. And a lot of innovations have happened in that space as well, whether it be from, starting with fingerprint recognition to Wi-Fi enabled to remote unlocking to quick guest access authorization. There are so many things that are possible in every small aspect of innovation, right? And that will grow, right? So, and now with AI coming, everything is at the beck and call of your voice.
Yes.
You don't even need a computer or a phone to do this, right?
Need.
It's just on your voice activation, everything can happen. I think lifestyle will change for the better. And technology will become almost like a second sense, if you will, a sixth sense, right? Something that you will use just like you use all your other senses, is what I see.
Thank you very much, Ganesh. I think giving your time, currently I'm sure you're quite occupied with the launch being around and things like that. Currently, down on energy, but we are not out on our idea. We would look forward. Stay tuned for our next episode.